So welcome along to A Story to Tell with me, Richard Beauvoisin. This is mainly taken from my Radio Bath show every Thursday morning from 10 until 12. If you do like it, don't forget to subscribe, share it to others, and let everyone know all about Radio Bath. Hope you enjoy it. Good morning, everybody, or is it? Is anyone else feeling slightly flat today? You can probably hear in my voice that I don't have much of a voice left today. Apparently there was a football match last night, Richard.
Absolutely, yes.
I know, and apparently some people watched it. So before we talk anything to do with cricket today and leadership, which is what we're going to be talking about today, leadership and cricket, we're going to just, as two blokes sat down at the pub, have a little chat about the football last night. So Richard, what did you think?
Well, obviously very disappointing, the result. I thought England played really well, despite the delaying tactics of Argentina. But at some point, with the substitutions, it went very defensive, and they seemed to sit back on the 1-0 lead and invite Argentina to press them. And we all know that a side that's got someone like Messi in it will create chances. And I think that was our undoing. So I think if they continued to be attacking, maybe the result would have been different.
I think the scenario that I looked at is that, you know, the tactic that he used against Norway and Mexico is that we went up and then, do you know what, we're going to hold fire and stop everybody from coming towards us. And that worked. And therefore you kind of, as a leader, you go back and go, well, this worked before, so therefore I'm just going to do that again. Unfortunately, forgot that Messi is the best player that's ever lived.
Yes, yeah.
And he just created two chances that, I mean, they did finish brilliantly, but that second cross, bearing in mind Messi is predominantly left-footed, so for any child out there that thinks, I only ever need to kick with my one foot,
as I did,
then, you know, Messi is that perfect example. They all thought he was going to go to the left. No, he went to the right, put the pin-perfect cross over, and that was it. It just open header.
And the chap, I can't remember his name, the chap who headed it back, headed into goal, seemed to have a free head.
Yeah.
There was no one around him.
Well, it just dropped between the two centre-halves, or the three centre-halves as we had back then. Yeah. And, it was gutting.
Do you not think they were defending too deep, though?
Again, this is a really weird one. If you go back to the earlier games in the competition, everybody talked about the low block, which is a phrase I'd never even heard of until this World Cup, if I'm honest with you, particularly, where you kind of have 9 men behind the ball right around your penalty area, and you just limit the amount of space that anybody can have, and it's really hard to get through that. That's kind of the tactic they went for. On this occasion, though, it just didn't work. They just still got through us, unfortunately. So did they go too defensive? I would have loved to have seen. For me, Rodgers got very tired, which is inevitable. And I would love to have seen Saka come on personally, or anybody with some pace, so that we had an out ball, so if they could just boot it long, have somebody quick to run up at it. Even for like taking Harry Kane off and put Ollie Watkins on for a bit more pace up front.
Yeah, because they had some success in the first half going wide. Yeah. Getting in behind the fullbacks, so I agree. Absolutely.
And I thought the first goal was brilliant. You know, that was a sensational goal for me.
Yeah.
And no cross wires from Spider-Cam were involved in this one either when the long ball got hit forwards. I still got very nervous every time Pickford got the ball. Just felt like he was going to give it to them. That still makes me nervous. I don't have full trust in Pickford's ability.
I agree.
I mean, I suppose the thing I'm looking at now, though, as well, is looking forwards. You know, we've got the Euro Championships in a couple of years, but then in 4 years' time, I highly doubt Harry Kane will be there.
Well, he's a senior player now, and like all sports, it seems to be a younger person's game nowadays at the highest level.
It is. So I think he'll be 36, 37 by then, and I mean, it's not that he's going to lose his pace because he hasn't got any anyway.
But having said that, there are exceptions, and Messi is a clear exception.
Messi's 39, Ronaldo's 74, which just feels that way anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, just felt like we couldn't get past. Unfortunate for England. I hope he plays all of the reserves in the third playoff place, which I just find the most pointless game in the world. I still don't know why they do that game. Nobody wants to do it.
No, because both sides will be deflated by the fact that they didn't make it through to the final. So commercial reasons, maybe.
Commercial reasons. I guarantee you, Kane and Bellingham are not playing in that game.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if they do. I'd love to see. I was really surprised. The only player I thought that dipped out the entire tournament, there must be a reason behind it, was Manu. I'm a really big fan of his. I've watched him play for Man U a number of times, and he just got looked over every time. He just had a free holiday, effectively. So I hope he gets a chance to shine. That'd be my only thought process. Anyway, what's today all about? It's Richard Beauvoisin, by the way. Good morning. And opposite me, I have the lovely Richard. Remind everybody of his surname, Richard.
Saunders.
And you are a cricket umpire. This is your third time of coming on. I've now made it a yearly thing.
Yeah.
I allow myself once a year to talk about cricket. But we're also going to go down the leadership route today as well and figure out how the leaders of Ben Stokes, Baz McCullum, and also being in the RAF, because you were an officer in the RAF for 41 years. So we're going to chat all about leadership as well. If you do have any questions for Richard, then you can email studio@radiobath.com, or you can text bars followed by a message to 80011. Now, for my guest today, this has confused him somewhat, Richard. Why has this song confused you, Richard?
Because I have it on my phone as my ringtone.
So you're now thinking that your phone is ringing constantly.
Yes.
I literally keep watching you across the desk here, and you keep looking down at your phone going, is my phone going?
Yeah.
So just for those that aren't aware, this is Booker T, and this is the BBC Cricket theme tune.
Yeah.
And it starts off every single thing. I still get goosebumps every time I hear this song.
So do I.
I really do, because I'm like, oh, it's time for cricket, whatever that cricket may be.
Goosebumps, and I check my phone.
And you check your phone. So it's Richard Beauvoisin here until midday today on A Story to Tell. It's cricket special. I'll hopefully get my voice lasting throughout the entire show. You never know. We're going to focus on cricket, kind of the history of the cricket over the last 12 months, the different personalities that we've had in job, out of job, and also what the future is. But also we're going to look at the leadership as we go along as well and see how leadership has been a part of it, and the RAF stuff as well, so how leadership is in the RAF. And of course, as you are a cricket umpire, we're going to be doing the Ask the Umpire section. For those who aren't aware of what that is, we'll do it later on the show. I will come up with a scenario which, on this occasion, Richard doesn't know what those scenarios are. Sometimes I let him into them, but not today. And some of them are actually have happened, and some of them are less likely to have happened. And then you've got to decide from the cricketing perspective what is the right answer from the umpire's perspective. So that's what we're going to do today.
Right.
Are you ready for this?
Give it my best shot, yes.
So we're going to start off with England. This is the England cricket team, and we're talking primarily about the Test England cricket team, about over the last year. Now, I'm going to go back to India last summer very quickly. And we had the scenario. It was a fantastic series where England played incredibly well at times, India played incredibly well at times. I kind of got the impression that from a leadership perspective, they didn't quite get it right, in that they could have made certain decisions to either shore up shop, like Thomas Tuchel tried to do last night, or attack. They kind of made neither occasion, like when we had 70 runs to win, 7 wickets left in the last match, and they still lost. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think it comes down to the culture of how they want to play the game. There seems to be a big shift, or has been a big shift, recognisable shift in the way the game is played. Looking back to Test cricket when I were a lad, many years ago, it was a game that was played over 5 days and invariably lasted the full 5 days. And then this new culture came in, what they call Bazball.
Let's explain for those that aren't aware of what Bazball is and where it comes from.
Well, the main enthusiast for it seemed to be Brendan McCullum, which was play with natural flair and aggression. Again, going back to international cricket that I used to watch as a lad, in a one-day international, for example, a score of 220, 230, 240 was seen or deemed to be a good score. Nowadays, the culture is, unless you're scoring 300 or more, you're not posting a competitive score. So there's this culture of freedom of expression, go out there and play without fear of getting out and facing the consequences of getting out, because in the old day, if you failed, the England team seemed to change quite regularly. Nowadays, it seems to be a bit more settled. But players go out there and play with natural flair and aggression, and if the ball's there, they try and hit.
Well, I still remember that scenario that somebody would hit a 6, which is where you clear the boundary and you hit it over the top. And then the next ball, they would get a single or 1. And I remember really clearly the commentator saying, that's really sensible, well done you. The scenario now is you hit a 6 and your next ball you should also try and hit a 6. And it's a very different culture.
Absolutely. And this is this aggressive attitude, is we need to be scoring as a minimum a run a ball to post a competitive score. Now, okay, other things have changed. The bats have changed. The speed of the ball off the bats nowadays, compared to when I played, is much higher. And entertainment value as well.
I would also say that, correct me if I'm wrong, I would say the players are marginally fitter these days than they used to be as well.
Absolutely, yes. Much more into diet and exercise and all the rest of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they're athletes now. If we go back to
absolutely.
Graham Gooch, for instance, who was not, he was quite a portly chap when he was playing, and many of them were quite chunky, shall we say.
Although Gooch did try and instill this idea of correct diet, nutrition, exercise. But yes, it is a very different game nowadays. It's young athletes.
They are young athletes indeed. So it was kind of changed. So let's go back to that scenario. I'd love to know, from a leadership perspective, I'm going to pop you in charge of the England cricket team.
Oh, dear, oh dear.
I know. We are 2-1 up against India. We're in the last test match. We've got 7 wickets left and we have 70 runs to win. We come out, it's the following morning, the last day of the test match. What's your attitude? How are you going to approach this? Are you going to go full out attack? Are you going to go into your shell? Are you kind of go for a balance? Where are you going with that then?
I would go for a balance. I would say to my batters, go out there and do not give your wicket away cheaply. Drop anchor and stay there, because as long as we've got spare batters in the pavilion, we will win this game. So if a bad ball comes, then hit it for 4, 6 or whatever. And be selective about what balls you leave, because not every single ball you need to play at. I think there's a culture now where chaps are getting out to balls they don't need to play to. But I would go for a balance. Be aggressive when the situation is appropriate, and other times be defensive. Don't go blaring and try and score these 70 runs in 7 overs.
Yeah, which is what they tried to do.
Which is what they try and do, because with that comes an element of risk.
Yeah,
and despite what the commentators will try and have us believe, that this is my own personal belief, they will have us believe that a international batsman can place a ball to a degree of where he wants to. Well, if that's true, why do they ever get caught in the outfield? They play in areas. Well, certainly I play in areas. That's what I believe. They divide the field up into areas and you play in areas. But if you're aggressive and the ball goes in the air, that comes with an element of risk.
Yeah.
So go for a balanced. Be aggressive if the ball dictates. If not, be defensive.
So almost like a sensible approach with your mind and brains rather than just gung-ho.
Exactly.
Yeah. That'd be quite nice. Now, just going again to the leadership side of it, the Ashes. Okay, we're not going to go into the debacle of everything they did then. But I remember pre the Ashes, all of the commentators turning around going, what are you doing regarding your preparation? You've got one warm-up match against, your second team effectively. That's not enough. And the players were very strong. Ben Stokes came out, the England captain at the time, came out and said, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This is a new way. We know what we're doing. Obviously, it didn't quite go to plan.
No, when it does come off, it looks fantastic. And the press are full of praise. But when this aggressive baseball style of cricket doesn't come off, then they look village, shall we say.
Yeah.
Amateurish.
So it's the preparation I'm thinking of. So somebody somewhere has gone, England are going to Australia, going to be there for 2 months. And again, trying to get that balance right between these guys being away from home for a long period, which is really difficult at times. So you don't want to be there for like 6 weeks beforehand, because then it's an enormously long tour. Equally, though, they've got to warm up. They basically used the first 2 tests, it seems to me, to warm up.
Yeah, no, I think you've got to be there 2-3 weeks before and have a number of good quality games to get used to the conditions, etc. It might be the first time individual players in the English squad have been to this part of the world. So, preparation is key. But the right preparation, it's got to be competitive cricket. So playing teams that are going to be challenging. However, there's a risk to that as well. If you play a team that is too challenging and get beaten, that's going to dent, which has happened in the past. Warm-up matches have not gone the way the England staff wanted the preparation to go.
Yeah.
No, preparation is key, as in lots of things in life.
So if I gave you a whiteboard right now and said, this is England over the last year, What do you reckon kind of their 3 biggest mistakes have been?
Oh, goodness me.
I know, what a question that is, eh?
And if I knew the answer to that, I'd probably be the English coach.
I wish somebody would be the English coach. We haven't got one at the moment.
Well, no, although they've got a short list of 9.
Have they? Well, that's great then.
Yeah.
So again, for me, preparation.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the key part for me, is getting that preparation right. You know, prepare to succeed rather than prepare to fail. What's the old phrase about, you know, prepare to fail and you will fail type thing, whatever that phrase is. Yeah, what would you do? What would you think they've done? And you think, if only they'd have done that, that would have been really helpful.
That's a very interesting and quite a difficult question to answer, actually. I'm probably going to have to give that a bit more thought.
You know what? We'll hold it there then. We'll come back with that after some music. We're here until midday today. It's Richard Beauvoisin here until midday today. My guest is Richard Saunders. He is a cricket umpire, and we're talking all about cricket today, but also leadership as well. That's where we're going to with all of this. Now, before the music, I set you up with a question, which I'll be honest with you, quite a tricky question.
It is,
which was, which 3 things did the England cricket team not do quite so well in the last 12 months? I've given you some time to think. What's your answer, Richard?
Well, based on the results, I would say the first thing is become difficult to beat. I know the aim is to win, but if you can't win, don't get beaten. Go for the draw. Now, some people might criticise me for this, but I think looking at a past England opening batsman boycott, he went out there and yes, okay.
Sorry, I've just fallen asleep.
But he dropped anchor and he would make it extremely difficult.
He would. Now, can I just also clarify that I'm not falling asleep to you talking? Let me just clarify that fact. More about Geoffrey Boycott. He could spend 5 days scoring 5 runs.
Yeah, I would disagree. He certainly wasn't as slow as Chris Tavare.
No. Okay.
And to get 100 hundreds at that level. But my point is that he went out there with the attitude of, my wicket is valuable, I'm going to be difficult to get out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it away. And therefore, yes, he would accumulate runs. But again, going back to his time, they didn't accumulate runs so quickly. That was the accepted culture at the time. And he was very difficult to get out.
Yeah.
Now, I think with this Bazball attitude, go out there, be aggressive, show your natural flair, etc. That comes with inherent risks, but which means you're much easier to get out.
Okay.
And I think there's a balance there. I mean, they seem to be over-reliant on Joe Root. Joe Root has that drop anchor, you're not going to get me out for the next 3 days attitude. And when it comes off, England do well. One could argue. When it doesn't...
Not so much.
Not so much.
No.
So, and also I think in past years, the selection policy, you had to, if you were selected for England, I feel, this is a personal view, that you had to perform straight away. And there was a big step up between county cricket and international cricket. And people were doing well at county cricket and thrown into the international cricket arena, and they're expected to perform straight away at a different level. And if they didn't perform, then they were moved out of the side and someone else came in. So the side was always unsettled.
Yeah.
And I think the reason someone's been selected to play Test cricket is they've shown competence and ability, but they need a period of time of confidence from the selection committee insofar as you'll play a number of tests to adapt, etc.
Because it takes time, doesn't it?
It does.
To step up to any level. You know, if you look at club football to international football, you know, it's a step up.
It is, yeah.
Every single player you're playing against is the best player in their club.
Correct.
And that's kind of what you get in international cricket. When the third and the fourth bowlers come on, they're the best bowlers at their counties.
Absolutely.
So it's always that full step up. It's relentless is the thing for me. Now, if I look over the last year, I think they made one major mistake, and I think if they'd have kept this person in tune and fit, they would have won the Ashes, and that is Sir Jimmy Anderson. Now, he's 42 years old now, might even be older than that. Yeah. He's still one of the leading wicket takers this year, and if they shifted him out. They got rid of him, said, you're not going to make the Ashes. He's still playing now really, really well, still one of the best bowlers in the country. And I think if they'd have had his control over that time, I think they would have won the Ashes. But I just felt like they just shifted him out because he was just too old. Let's look at Messi. Is he too old? He's going to win the World Cup for Argentina.
Yeah. How much of moving out of Test cricket was a personal choice, though, as well? Do you think he was pushed, or
absolutely? Yeah, I've listened to many podcasts with him. I listened to a podcast called Tailenders, and he's on that podcast. He was absolutely pushed. He was told, "We don't think you're going to be fit enough in 18 months' time for the Ashes." Therefore, and I get the principle from a leadership perspective. They've gone to it and they've said, we need to get the people to replace you. They need experience. So therefore, we're booting you out now. Again, I understand all of that.
To build for the future.
Yeah, get it. But I just think, actually, it would have been better for him to have finished after this Ashes, possibly, or even this year. He's still going because he's fit. And again, people are fit these days.
You're right. And all sport is a performance-based industry. I would tend to agree. If you're performing, you're still able to perform at that level, then... age just becomes a number.
Now, let's look at the former captain of the England Test team, which is Ben Stokes. Okay, now he is undoubtedly a fantastic leader. When he took over, let's just give the scene very quickly. He took over from Joe Root, and they had won one Test in 17. He took over along with Baz McCullum, and they won 11 out of their first 12 Tests. So it was a major transformation when he took over. The trouble is that for me, they kept on playing in the same way, which was the Bazball way, which is attack, basically. Unfortunately, what they then ended up with is players that couldn't do it. So they had Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, Johnny Bairstow, all of these senior players that were very used to going out and doing that type of thing. Then they brought in players that, they wanted to breed and all of that type of stuff, who just couldn't do it, and therefore you've ended up with square pegs, round holes.
Yes. Square pegs, round holes. I think there's an element of truth to what you say. But again, they would look into the future to replace these senior players. Perhaps they replaced some of them too early. One thing I think Ben Stokes really did well, tradition says the captain is normally deemed to be the best player in the side. There was one English captain I can think of where that was not true. Mike Brearley. Absolutely correct. I think he's probably one of the best captains England's ever seen.
So he was in the mid-80s, wasn't he? And he could barely hold a bat. He was that bad. He wasn't quite that bad, but he wasn't a great batsman. No. But he was a brilliant captain.
It was said that if he was selected based on his batting performance only, he wouldn't have made the Test side, but his captaincy. So Ben Stokes appointed captain probably because he was regarded as the best player in the side at the time, and he was an all-rounder in the mode of the great Ian Botham. And as a captain in the field, he used to set, or still continues to set, very aggressive and what I would consider non-standard fields to attack the batsman. There's a lot more research nowadays that goes on than in past years about looking at watching videos of players, identifying their weak areas, their strong areas, where do they score their runs, etc., 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 and setting the field accordingly, which I think he did very well.
So what was your thoughts then when he announced his retirement? Because most English captains last about 4 years. After that, they're done, and he lasted 5. So he's kind of done his time, but I was shocked when he said he was done. I thought the natural place for him to stop would be the Ashes next year, but equally I get it. He's had to dip into the well many, many times to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
And I wonder, the incident that happened following the first Test against New Zealand, this incident that happened at the nightclub, and the way that was handled by the cricketing authorities, I wonder if that coloured his decision-making process about captaincy.
I definitely don't think it helped, let's put it that way.
No, I think, and I think, maybe the punishment of suspending the English captain, talented cricketer, in the middle of a Test series, if I was in charge, I personally wouldn't have suspended him. I think there were other punishments. I understand that he broke the rules, the curfew that was set. There was a thought that he was not leading by example, which I think is important. But when it comes to dealing with that situation in terms of a punishment, there are other things you could do, which are quite visible, not only to the other members of the team, but also the watching public. So they realise that he hasn't got away with his behaviour.
Yeah.
There are other ways you can deal with it than suspend a critical person in the England team from playing in a test match.
Because it meant that the next test match we had 5 new people basically come in due to injuries and a variety of things, and we were basically playing our reserve team, and we got stuffed.
We did.
Which wasn't great.
No.
Now, regarding Ben Stokes, very quickly on a leadership perspective then, how much do you think Ben Stokes led from the front from his cricketing aspect, or Ben Stokes led from his personality aspect?
I don't think you can separate the two. I mean, they're intrinsically linked. I don't think you can change your character and the way you lead based purely on it's situated. There are many leadership styles. One of which is situational, where you adapt to the situation accordingly, and you mix the leadership styles that are available to you to get the best out of your people. Ben Stokes is obviously a very competent individual. I think at times he can be autocratic, which is what's needed, an autocratic leadership style where you are in a pressure situation and you need things done quickly, decisions need to be made quickly, people need to know who are in charge. It's very much based on a disciplined approach to leadership, which is what people traditionally think military leadership is about, but there's many other facets of military leadership.
We're going to be talking about that shortly.
So I think there was a combination of... You've got to be able to... I think it's important in the sports environment, if you are the captain, lead by example in terms of performance. Although traditionally, the same happened with Joe Root, their form tends to tail off. Ian Botham, another one, David Gower. When appointed as England captain, they've got other activities they need to deal with, the press, etc., and their form tends to take a dip.
Well, you become the ambassador for the team, don't you?
Yeah.
Rather than going to practice, you have to go and do media consultations.
Yeah.
Loads more to discuss as we go further forwards here right until midday today.
Did it again. I made you believe we're more than just friends. Oh baby, it might seem like a crush.
It's Richard Beauvoisin here until midday today. My guest is Richard Saunders. He's a cricket umpire. We're talking cricket, we're talking leadership. We're now going to talk RAF in a minute as well, or as I like to wind people up, who were and always will be in the RAF, the RAF, which I know offends a number of people, so therefore I do it even more. But I'm going to ask you a very quick question, and that is, Ben Stokes has resigned as the England cricket captain. Who do you think is going to be next?
Well, I know who I'd like to see as next, but I think...
Who do you think... Who would you like to see next?
I would like... Well, it comes down to what style of cricket are they going to play?
Yeah.
And that will be informed by who the next test coach is. Are they going to continue with this Baz ball, go out and score 300 runs a day, etc., or are they going to go more traditionally? Now, I think there was a good reason why Joe Root was reappointed as captain for that second test against New Zealand when Ben Stokes was suspended.
Yeah. Because
he's a safe pair of hands. And I would personally go with Joe Root, if he would accept it, because I think he's a definite pick, first name on the team sheet.
Yeah.
He's one of the best batsmen in the world. He's got a proven track record as England captain, and if they choose who I personally think is the best candidate to take over as the test coach,
go on, who's that?
I think Justin Langer.
Okay,
the Australian. Yeah, he and Andy Flower, who we've already had, are the top two on this shortlist of 9 apparently.
Yeah.
Justin Langer has got a proven track record in Test cricket with the Australian side, and I think if Justin Langer gets the appointment as coach, I think Joe Root would be his preferred bet. the other option, if they can continue with the Bazball attitude of playing, let's go out and score 300 runs a day, will probably be Harry.
Yeah, Harry Brook.
Harry Brook, yeah. Personal choice, I would go with Joe Root.
Okay.
Because I'm more of a traditionist in the way the Test cricket is played.
Now, my understanding, and I haven't watched too much of it, is that Harry Brook has been leading the one-day and T20 teams incredibly well, choosing really good fields. And actually, from a cricket perspective, I think he would be an exceptional choice. As an ambassador, I think he's square peg round hole again.
Yeah,
He doesn't speak well.
No.
In any way, shape or form.
But that can be trained.
That can be trained, absolutely. And my personal what I think they're going to do, they're going to select the coach. I listened to an interview with the head of the ECB the other day, and they're going to choose the coach first, and then they're going to choose the captain. Yeah. That's the way they're going around, which I think is the right way to do it. And I think that they will choose Harry Brook in the Test team, but they'll accept that it's too much to do all three formats, so they'll take one or both of the short formats off him. That's what I think will happen.
I mean, Joss Butler has captained the T20 side a number of times. But I think you're right. I think the correct way to do it is choose the coach first. The coach will inform and have an influence over the style of cricket the Test team play, and I think that will inform the selection of the captain.
I think so too. Now, we're going to go on to a slightly different topic, and that is the RAF, or the RAF, as I like to call it. Now, you do know that you now are aware that it winds you up.
Yeah.
I'm inevitably going to do it more now. I'm so sorry.
I accept that.
Yes, you have to accept it. It's a strange thing when people say to me, because I'm ex-RAF, and people say to me, are you going to be offended by something? And I always say this phrase, I'm ex-military, you're never going to offend me. Because the culture that is in the military is so brutal at times.
It is, yeah.
That in civvy world, no matter what anybody says, it's never going to be like the military.
That is true.
Now, we had a different format in regarding how we were in the RAF. I was a non-commissioned person. You were a commissioned person. First of all, please explain to everybody what that means.
A commissioned individual is, well, for a start, there are different educational qualifications or levels required to apply. And also, in the modern military, to do certain jobs, you have to be a commissioned officer. And commissioned is you go through a formal course of training from day one, and you get the Queen's Commission. Nowadays, obviously, the King's Commission. I had the Queen's Commission, so you get a certificate saying you've been awarded the Monarch's Commission. For a non-commissioned individual, it is someone who joins as a airman in the Air Force, or a private in the Army, or a seaman in the Navy, and they work their way up. So their promotion to non-commissioned status is based on performance over a number of years, witness performance, proof of performance, etc. And then they get a warrant, a non-commissioned warrant, as the first rank in the RAF is corporal, non-commissioned officer.
Now, for me, I look at it and I go back to this, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but my understanding is that commissioned officers in the past, let's go back into the early 1900s, tended to be the gentlemen of this world, and the non-commissioned officers tended to be the rat race.
Absolutely right. There was this belief that as a upper-class individual, there was an entitlement to lead, and that used to be the case. And well, I've been retired from the military now 5.5 years, and things change very rapidly. But certainly in my time, looking at certain regiments in the army, you had to have the right school tie, the right background, the right educational background, the right social standing in order to be an officer in certain regiments. And in fact, that's probably true throughout the military. But times have changed. Certainly when I joined, it was based purely on merit. You were selected based on your educational qualifications, the aptitude that you showed for doing certain jobs. For example, pilot, you need a clear aptitude. Controlling aircraft, you need aptitude. How you performed during the selection process, which in my day was a 3-day process at RAF Biggin Hill, which is no longer part of the process. It's all now done at the Officer and Aircrew Selection Centre at RAF Cranwell. And it didn't matter what your social breeding background was, for want of a better phrase. It was all purely based on your performance during the selection process.
Okay, so I'm going to counter that ever so slightly in that I went along to join. I had all the qualifications I needed to become a commissioned officer.
Yeah.
I was told by many people it's the better way to do it. Go in as a commissioned officer. It's a much better life and all of that type of stuff. I went into the room in the Southampton recruitment office and I was surrounded by people that were not my tribe. Basically, I came from a council estate and the people that were around me literally had daddy's plane hours on their books.
Yeah, yeah.
And I looked around and thought, a bit like in cricket, I'm not one of these people. I don't belong here. I left, and I could have done that role. I then left and I went back in as a normal person as such and looked around and thought, these are my guys. And felt very comfortable at that point. I was actually asked 6 times while I was in to have a look at becoming a commissioned officer. And every single time I turned it down, largely because I didn't actually agree with the system of you had to be well-to-do, basically, to be an officer. It's kind of the principle that I saw it as, and I couldn't subscribe to that.
And that was one time the principle, but now it's not. It doesn't matter what
this
your
is back at the turn
is.
of the century.
Well,
so around about 2000, sort of era. So we're not talking a million miles ago. Or that recent. Okay. But it was still back then what I felt like it was. But we've got lots to talk about on the military still because we haven't even touched this yet. We're going to be here until midday today. If you do have any questions, then you can text bars followed by a message to 80011 or you can email studio@radiobath.com. If you missed any of this conversation or can't stay on for the rest of the show, then it will be available as a podcast later on tonight.
As you promised me that I was more than all the miles combined, you must have had yourself a change of heart like halfway through the drive, because your voice trailed off exactly as you passed my exit sign. Kept on driving straight and left our future to the right. Now I am stuck between my anger and the blame that I can't face, and memories or something even smoking weed does not replace, and I am terrified of whether I gotta have faith.
Time for the second hour now. It's Richard Beauvoisin here, right until midday today. My guest today is Richard Saunders. He's a cricket umpire and also a neighbour of mine, which makes coming in very easy for both of us because literally just jumped in my car. Now, just before the news, we were talking about the RAF and leadership, and we kind of scratched the surface a little bit. And we were discussing about the fact that I was asked to be an officer, a commissioned officer, 6 times whilst I was in. I turned it down every time, and you called me a snob.
No, I didn't.
You called me a snob. Now, what did you mean by that, though?
No, what I said is there could be, and I don't wish to offend, there could be this inverse snobbery. Because some people believe that in order to be a commissioned officer, you have to come from a certain background.
Which did used to be the case.
Which did used to be the case. However, the government and the forces have worked hard to change that perception. It doesn't matter what your social background is or what your perceived social status, upper class, middle class, lower class, and all that rubbish. If you have got the qualities they are looking for and the educational ability, and you pass the selection process, and then you pass the training process, which is not a walk in the park, you're put under pressure. So as long as you meet all those criteria and you make the grade, then you are offered a position as a commissioned officer. Now, some people, it's not for them. They make a personal choice. I went into the commission route because of the personal choices I made, because of what I wanted to do in the military.
So what did you want to do in the military then?
Well, I wanted to fly. Now, a bit of history. My father's father, was a non-commissioned officer in the Royal Flying Corps, attached to the artillery. He used to be a spotter in a balloon. My father spent time as in the Royal Engineers, an army officer. I wanted to fly, and I wanted to fly helicopters. And in the army, when I joined, they had non-commissioned officers, sergeants, flying helicopters. I think sergeant's the lowest rank. It is the lowest rank that you have to hold in order to be flying an aircraft. We had non-commissioned pilots in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. But when I joined the military and I looked at joining the Army Air Corps to fly helicopters, the policy was at the time they would not take direct entrance. You had to join the army, go through Sandhurst, and then spend 3 years with one of the fighting arms, the infantry, etc., 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 before they even let you look at a picture of a helicopter, let alone get in one and learn to fly. So the more immediate route for me to go into flying was to join the Royal Air Force. And I can remember going home one day and saying, Dad, I'm going to join the Royal Air Force. I don't think he forgave me until he...
Or the RAF, as I like to call it.
The Royal Air Force. I don't think he forgave me until he saw me graduate. But the policy at the time in the Royal Air Force, in order to fly an airplane, you had to be a commissioned officer. That was my quickest route to go into flying. Now, as it turned out, I wasn't successful in my flying training, so I didn't end up... I flew a two-seat jet before I drove a car. I had a couple of near misses when flying. One was my fault, one wasn't. But ultimately, I did not become an operational frontline pilot. Also, when asked, I declared. You asked, I sat in front of an air board, very senior officers, and what would you like to fly, young man? And my answer was, I'd like to fly helicopters, which was not the right thing to say, as I later found out, because the Air Force was all geared towards fast jet training, flying. You were destined to be a fast jet pilot until you proved along the training path that you weren't capable of doing that, and then, depending on where your failings were, you would either went into multi-engined or into helicopters. The policy again has now changed. People can declare what they'd like to fly at a much earlier stage, but back then when I joined, it was all geared towards fast jet, and if you didn't want to be a fast jet pilot, you had a lack of moral fibre, etc. So me declaring from day one that I want to be a helicopter pilot probably also didn't help me.
So what did you end up doing then?
Well, once my flying career stopped, as it were, I went into...
Very brief flying
career, yes. Yeah. I went into what was called then fighter control. It's now called aerospace battle management. But back in the days of the fighter control branch, it was advertised as the third man in the cockpit, because the interceptor of the day was still the Lightning, which was a single-seat aircraft, very high workload for the pilot who had to operate the radar system and the weapon system and also fly the aircraft. And the fighter controller, slightly different from an air traffic controller, a fighter controller would do tactical control, position aircraft to be able to fire missiles in air combat and things like this, whereas an air traffic control would keep aircraft apart, safety first, etc. So I went into that.
Okay.
As a commissioned officer.
And going into the leadership side then, did you have a team around you? Were you the only person doing that? What was your setup?
In the fighter control world, you had a team. Well, as an officer, as a junior officer, newly commissioned officer, pilot officer, flying officer, I had no flight commander responsibilities in terms of leading. It was still deemed as a training rank. You're still finding your feet because you're still very young. I was commissioned at the age of 19. Still wet behind the ears, so I still had a lot of learning to do.
And let's look at this scenario. You spoke earlier about the warrant officers, which is the top non-commissioned rank.
Yeah.
Chances are a warrant officer would have been in the military for 25 years, realistically, to get to that sort of rank, because it takes a long time to get through the process. So minimum age, realistically, of 45. So as a 19-year-old, being in charge, as you say, wet behind the ears, of a 45-year-old extremely experienced person, that bit for me doesn't work.
No, you're right. And I wouldn't say, as a 19-year-old newly commissioned officer, I was in charge of these individuals. Again, I was still training. The first time I had leadership responsibility in terms of everything, welfare, professional performance, professional development, this sort of stuff, was when I became a flight lieutenant.
Right.
As a flight lieutenant, equivalent rank in the Army as captain, it is deemed not to be a training rank. You are deemed to know what you're doing. You've been in the military for a minimum, as a commissioned officer, a minimum of 6 years. So you know which way is up. You know the answers to things. As a pilot officer and flying officer, I was responsible for myself. When I was controlling aircraft on console, I had an assistant. We worked as a team. But I had operational positions above me. Some of the positions were manned by warrant officers, very experienced individuals. So we had a position called the fighter allocator. The fighter allocator was someone within the ops room who was responsible for a number of control positions.
Okay.
And they ran the ops room. So I was subordinate to the fighter allocator as a intercept controller sat on the front line. So it wasn't until I became a flight lieutenant and I was then given flight commander responsibility, where I then had leadership, managerial responsibility over some people who were a lot older than me, and that was a very difficult thing. However, I learned very quickly that senior NCOs, flight sergeants, sergeants, warrant officers, very experienced. They are the oracle. As a junior officer, you're expected to learn from them. Yeah. And indeed, one of the warrant officers' tasks is to bring along the junior officers.
Okay.
And I learnt from experience. I can remember going into a position as I was a deputy flight commander, flying officer, and I was probably a bit arrogant, like a lot of junior chaps are. And the tendency is you get put into a new position and you want to change things. You need to make your stamp. You make your mark. You want to be noticed by your superiors, affecting change, good change.
Yeah.
So you walk into a machine which is a finely tuned machine running like a Swiss watch, and then you tinker with things unnecessarily because you're trying to make your mark. And all of a sudden, this smooth running Swiss watch starts to slow down. And this happened to me. But then I realised this. I had the emotional intelligence to realise that what I was doing was stupid. I was being arrogant, because the sergeant stopped doing what had been done before, which is keeping that Swiss watch running smoothly.
Okay.
So I went with him, cap in hand, and said, "Sergeant, I'm terribly sorry. I've been a bit of an idiot. The wheels are coming off the bus. Can you help me?" He said, "Sir, no problem at all. I just gave you a bit of rope because you need to learn."
Rope to hang yourself.
Exactly.
Let's face it.
And now you've come to me. We've had an adult chat. He says, "What we need to do, sir, is this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
And he was very good, because he made me feel, at that point, I was making the decisions to bring the Swiss clock back.
Yeah.
But really,
he was the leader there.
he was the man making decisions.
Yeah.
He would say, "What we need to do, this, sir, is this, that, and then right now, sir, you need to go and tell the chaps and chapesses, this is what we're going to do." So that's what happened.
So that's relatively new into your RAF career.
Yeah.
You were in for 41 years. I'm guessing the latter half was probably a bit different.
Yeah, I mean, as you go, when I became a squadron commander, in charge or responsible for a squadron of 100 people on a training unit, things were different. I was, on that particular squadron, I was the man at the top.
You were the top dog,
but I still had bosses. I still had, this. I was on the air defence school. I had 3 different squadrons, and I was in charge of one squadron. So we still had the training school boss above us.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about what kind of was your style of leader? So you were 100 people there. Were you the type of leader that was disconnected from everybody and kind of hiding away in your office, or were you on the ground, kind of, you'll do the jobs that are needed to do? Everybody's got their own jobs. I had a really good headmaster at a school recently, that he was basically, their principle is that nobody is more important than anybody else in regarding their team. He has, and this is the really bit I liked about it, he said, "I have more responsibility than everybody else as the headmaster, but I am no more important than the teacher that's just joined our team." And I really like that principle. I'm not sure that lives in the military.
Well, there are varying styles of leadership in the military. I mean, the one that most people think the military leadership is what they call authoritative, or maybe autocratic, which enforces discipline, and you say to someone, "Do this," and you expect them to do, jump, how high, sir, etc., etc., etc. But that is just one way of one leadership style within the military. There are different styles which you adapt to the situation. Now, the authoritative, autocratic style of leadership is very effective in a high-intensity environment like combat, where you need people to do things without question.
Yep.
You need to be able to make a quick decision, articulate that decision, and people need to do it, and it needs to be disciplined, because you can't afford to dilly-dally and question.
"I'm doing this because..." We can't have any of that, because life and death.
Correct. But then there are other things that there's a transformational style of leadership which is meant to inspire motivation by cultivating a shared vision of what is going on. There are some leadership styles that are more akin to the training environment, where instead of giving direction on how to do things, you set out goals, and then you let your subordinates come up with the ideas. Because just because you're the leader, you don't have a monopoly on all the good ideas, and that's something you have to learn very quickly. There's this element of Chinese parliament. You go to your squadron and say, "Right, we've been given this task. I've got some ideas how I'm going to achieve it. What are your ideas?" And it doesn't matter what rank the individual is. If they've got a good idea, they express it.
Do you think that in the military, and we'll go to some music in a second, and I'll set this up for you now, we'll come back after the music. Do you think the military is realistically set up, though, for the junior ranks to feel able to speak their ideas to the military officers? We'll come back with that one very, very shortly.
Tonight I'm gonna have myself a real good time. I feel alive, and the world, I'm turning inside out, yeah. I'm floating around in ecstasy, so...
It's Richard Beauvoisin here until midday today. My voice is slowly but surely going. It's going.
Oh dear.
I know. I'm trying to keep it hydrated as much as I possibly can, but I can hear the gravel in my voice. And it's going deeper and deeper for no good reason whatsoever. We've been talking leadership all morning. We've based it around cricket. We've done a little bit of the RAF as well. Very shortly, we're going to be doing my favourite section of the year, which is called Ask the Umpire, where I'll set up a scenario on a cricket pitch, and as an umpire, as a fully qualified umpire...
Amateur umpire, recreational umpire, yeah.
Fully qualified umpire, you've got to give the theoretical right answer to the problem, okay? So that's going to be coming up very shortly. Now, before the latest piece of music, I gave you a scenario of... the officer has come in, or you said, the officer's come in, you've got ideas, but then you're opening the floor and saying, you know, give me your ideas and I'll take them on board. And I questioned whether the scenario and the culture in the military is set up that way. And you were like, sure, let's answer that.
Well, again, it depends on the situation. As we've already heard, there are some very articulate, intelligent individuals in the military, such as yourself once was, who decided not to go to the commission route. But doesn't mean they suddenly lose their intelligence or their innovation, etc. So it really depends on the situation. You do not want a culture where, as a leader, the people you are leading are what I would call yes men, because that's dangerous. That limits innovation, it limits enterprise, etc. You, as I said, as the leader, you do not have a monopoly on all the good ideas. So I think a culture where people can challenge, can question. In fact, it doesn't matter what rank you are. You're always told you are not required to follow an illegal order. And those orders are clearly articulated to us, so we're all aware.
Jump off a cliff.
Yeah, or shoot a prisoner of war. We don't have the food or the supplies to look after this individual. Just go out there and shoot him, end of problem. No, it's illegal. So you are quite within your right, doesn't matter what rank you are, to disobey what is an illegal order. If, as a leader, you are surrounded by yes men, people just follow without question. Now, I already talked there at certain situations in combat. I mean, the best person to probably talk about this would be someone in the army who leads troops on the ground, because combat in the Air Force is different. It's a little bit more remote.
Well, again, I go for the principle of the other reason I didn't want to join the RAF as an officer and fly the plane is that generally in the RAF as an engineer, which is what I ended up being, you were hundreds of miles away from the actual combat and you send your officers off to war. And I quite like that theory.
Yes, it's fairly unique is that most of putting the RAF regiment aside, which the RAF regiment is...
it's like the army.
Well, what the Marines are to the Navy, the RAF regiment are to the Air Force. Most of the fighting in the military, you've got to be careful here, in terms of aircraft, are senior NCOs and officers, because we have senior NCO crewmen on helicopters and the larger aircraft, etc., etc., etc. Whereas the main part of the fighting force in the army are the privates, soldiers. But going back to this,
we like to call them, cannon fodder.
Cannon fodder, yes, the infantry. But you don't want to surround yourself with yes men, depending on the situation in. If you're in combat, decisions need to be made quickly. You need to be direct in giving them. People need to act quickly because lives could be lives could be in the balance. But in different situations, you've got the time to be able to ask other people their opinion and ask the juniors. I used the word subordinates earlier, and you made comment, but don't get away from the fact that the military is a hierarchical organisation. It has structure, it has discipline, etc. One good thing about the military, our military, is it's professional in terms of every single person in the United Kingdom Armed Forces at the moment is a volunteer. They are there because they want to be. They're not press ganged. They're there because they want to be. They're a like-minded individual, and they make military discipline work because they want to be there.
Do you know, one of the other things I really used to love about the military is that everybody knew what everybody else got paid as well.
Yes.
It's published. You
Exactly.
know, your pay when you go up to this rank is going to be this.
Correct.
And therefore there's no question about it whatsoever. So
Correct.
it took kind of that aspect out of it entirely.
Yeah. Everything's an open book. You can
Yeah.
walk into any recruitment office. But again, if you surround yourself with yes men, you become a dictator. You become a Putin. People are fearful to express their concerns and their fears and do things blindly. And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
So there is a culture in the modern military where people are able to question, ask. It's all about the way you do it,
Okay.
how you interact with people. Quite clearly, if you walk into your boss's office and say, "Oi, I think you're an idiot, you've got this, that and the other wrong," then straight away he's going to be defensive. He or she is going to be defensive.
But that would be the same situation in corporate world. You know, you can't
Correct.
just walk into a director and say,
Correct.
"Oi, I think you're an idiot."
Correct.
You know, you have to do it in the correct way, no matter what the scenario is. But that comes down to the word respect.
Yes, it does.
And that's the key part, whether as the leader of the group you are respecting those that are following you, and as the followers whether you respect the leader. And that for me is where, like going back to cricket very quickly, Ben Stokes, Baz McCullum, they were respected as the leaders. You know, really interestingly, a lot's been made of Jude Bellingham's comment of when he's asked about Thomas Tuchel saying that they didn't actually play very well, the mentality was great but they didn't play very well, and he just went, whatever. And you kind of think, do you actually respect the manager at that point there?
Yeah. Yes, I can see that point. But the thing about respect is respect for rank. Going back to my military days, respect for rank was unquestionable. If someone was more senior to you in rank, you respected that rank. Respect for the person who wore that rank is a different thing. That was something that was earned through the way they interacted and led. The leadership styles, there are 6 different leadership styles in the military, and you can mingle them depending on the situation. And also, overarching in this, I believe, and this is what we were taught as we went through, was emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, which is a two-way street. The ability to look at yourself. What are my triggers? What am I good at? What am I not so good at? How do I interact with people? How do I come across? Looking at others, what makes them tick? Some respond better to the stick, some to arm around the shoulders, etc. So all these things and the way you interact with people and your demeanour, your personality, fosters the building of respect.
So I'm thinking now of some of the best leaders in history of such haven't had training. They just happen to be who they were and natural leaders.
Yeah.
And some people require all those 6 different ways of being trained. These are the different scenarios. If you're in X scenario, then you do this type of leadership. From your military background, what did you get? Did you kind of go, if you're in this scenario, this is how you need to be? Or was it more of a natural process for you?
Well, I think for some people, leadership is an innate quality. They, for whatever reasons, we are influenced from the moment we go to school. We're influenced by all sorts of different things. Parents, obviously, the first thing. School teachers, peers, etc. We influence, and that builds our character. And some people have this innate ability to lead, and then it is polished, for want of a better phrase, when they go through the military training. I think that although they now have defined 6 styles of leadership, this has been going on for centuries. People have been doing it innately, and now an academic comes along and decided to put a label on that particular style, this particular style, and a definition. So the best leaders in my experience, or the people that earned my respect very quickly, was not just because of their rank, but because the way they interacted, their emotional intelligence, the fact that they adapted their leadership styles to the situation, their personal touch, looking you in the eye when they talk to you, talking to you like a human being, not like some...
So going on the looking into your eye, so for me being autistic, looking into people's eyes is incredibly painful for me.
Yeah.
You know, during these radio interviews, I do it because I know it, I need to do it. But I wouldn't necessarily respect somebody less because they didn't look me in the eye, for instance, but that's my knowledge of autism. In fact, I know that if an autistic person is looking me in the eye, they're not listening to a word I'm saying.
Oh, right, okay.
Because they're focusing all their attention on looking at me in the eye, and everything else is just a complete blur.
And that's an observation you make because you have particular knowledge. Looking at you, I couldn't tell that.
No.
I'm just thinking about people that have made an impression on me during my military career and how the way they treated me, etc. And their interpersonal skills, etc.
So for you, it's more about the relationship. So yes, they may be a leader and they might hopefully make the right decisions. That's what you're looking for. But it's more about how they treat you as a human being as much as anything else.
Well, I think my father, who was an army officer, he said to me, doesn't matter what an individual's got on their shoulder or their arm, at the end of the day, they're a human being.
Yeah.
And you should treat them with the common decency that deserves. Speak to them the way you expect to be spoken to. Now, there are situations, I've said, where you need to bark, you need to be autocratic, do this. No questions, just do it, etc., etc. And hopefully the subordinates, I'll go back to that word, have built up a trust that the officer or the person in charge, doesn't matter if it's an officer, it could be a senior NCO, or whatever, the person in charge knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you have that trust. Same as we have a trust, supposedly, in the government. The government leads the country. They don't ask our opinion about every single decision they make.
Yeah.
We, as the populace, have a trust that they're going to do the right thing. Whether they do or not is a different thing.
And I've got a question that's come in, which I'll pose to you, and then we'll come back to that after the music in a moment. But we have leaders in every single walk of life, and I think this is what I'd love people to realise, is that, you know, as we're coming in today, for this radio show, I am the leader.
Correct.
You know, and you've put your trust in me that I'm going to look after you, which hopefully I do.
Yeah.
And you are my subordinate.
Correct.
In this instance. And we have that scenario where I become, you know, like if I'm doing DIY, you know, I run my business, I'm the dance teacher and all of that. I do DIY, I become the subordinate to my father-in-law. He's the one in charge, and I'm very happy to have that scenario.
Yeah.
Now, the question that's come in, we're going to have some music, but you can have a think about this one. Before we come back, my favourite part, which is Ask the Umpire, and a chap called Pete, I know him well. He says, who does Richard think has been the most influential person in your life? So there's your question. We're going to come back to that after the music.
Up, so consumed by all this hurt. If you ask me, don't know where to start. Anger, love, confusion, roads that go nowhere. I know there's somewhere better, 'cause you always take me there. Came to you with a broken faith.
Time for the last section now. It's Richard Beauvoisin here, right until midday. Lorraine is up next. We've been talking leadership more than anything else this morning with my guest, Richard Saunders. He is a cricket umpire. We've touched on cricket quite a lot, but not that much in truth. We've spoken a lot about the RAF subordinates. Now, a question came in from Pete. I know him quite well, Richard.
Yes.
He fathered me, if I'm honest with you. There's now an image in my head I probably wish I didn't have. But, so he asked the question, who has been the most influential person in your life?
Well, it's very difficult, I think, to identify one individual. So whether this will satisfy Pete's question, I don't know. But my answer is this. Clearly, my parents were very influential. My father was an architect. My mother was a school teacher for a while, and then she was in professional catering, etc. But the thing that my parents indoctrinated in me was a very strong sense of right and wrong, fairness, justice, injustice, and the way that you should treat people accordingly. So they were very influential. Then I think back to my school days, and there was one school teacher who, again, was influential in building my character, I believe, because of the way they interacted, the way they spoke to you, not as a teacher, student, pupil, but almost on a par, talk to you, ask you questions, listen to you, etc. And then another person who was very influential was my very first station commander, a group captain called Paul Hobley, who was an ex-Lightning pilot. and very capable individual, very capable professional. But again, his personal skills and the way he treated me as a very young junior officer made a lasting impression on how you treat people. It doesn't matter, going back to that phrase, it doesn't matter what people have got on their shoulder or their arm, they're human beings, and the way you interact with them gets the best of them or not. And interactions I had with him and his ability to remember things and be personal made a huge impact on me. So those, no one single people.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Right, so for those who aren't aware what Ask the Umpire is, this is the BBC Test Match Special section they do. They do it once a year. They've got a new person doing it now as well. I can't remember who it is, but they've got a new person doing it. They did it this year. And the scenario is that in cricket, you often get some very unusual scenarios, and as an umpire, you've got to decide what is the right thing to do. I know this is the bit that you get the most nervous about because your colleagues hold you to this.
Exactly.
And have you given the right answer?
Exactly.
So, and some of these scenarios are usual, some of them have happened, and some of them are less likely to happen. I've not given you any clues about what any of these are today.
No.
So, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Good luck.
Walking into the lion's den.
Indeed so. Right. A fast bowler delivers a short ball, which the batter absolutely nails through the covers. As they play the shot, the bat snaps clean in half. The top half flies towards the point, while the batter is left holding only the handle. The ball is racing away towards the boundary, and both batters immediately set off for a second run. Some fielders stop because they assume play must be over. Others continue chasing the ball. As the umpire, do you stop play?
No. The fact that the striker's bat is broken does not stop play. Well, I'll qualify that. As long as the bit that's broken off has not flown off and hit a fielder in the face and caused serious injury. Now, in recreational cricket, if there's any sort of head contact, head impact, then it's immediately a dead ball, and anything that happened prior to that counts. So any runs they've crossed for a run will be scored. But the moment the dead ball happens, it's not. Different in professional cricket. So in recreational cricket, the fact that the bat has broken, as long as it's not struck anything or hit his wicket, the ball is still in play, and you just continue.
And according to my answers, that is correct.
Thank
one
goodness
for
for that.
One. Here we go. The next one. The batter nudges the ball into the leg side and sets off for a quick single. Halfway down the pitch, one of their shoes flies off completely. A fielder races in, picks up the ball and throws at the stumps. Instead of hitting the wicket, the ball crashes into the abandoned shoe lying on the pitch. The batting side immediately appeal. What's your decision?
Right, yes. I've seen this hundreds of times. Not.
I'm sure.
Well, okay. I would liken this to the headwear. If a part of a player's equipment is purposely discarded and the ball then strikes it, then that attracts a ward of 5 penalty runs. So, for example, if a fielder in the outfield sees the ball coming to them and they take off their hat and they throw it down and the ball hits it, that's 5 penalty runs.
Okay.
If the hat or the shoe inadvertently comes off, it's not a willful act, and the ball hits it, there's no penalty runs.
Okay, would you like to know what the answer I've got written down here is?
Hopefully it's what I've
Okay,
said.
it says, if the shoe simply came off accidentally, play continues.
Correct.
If it had been deliberately used to stop or deflect the ball, the batting side would receive 5 penalty runs. It's almost like you know what you're talking about.
Well, thank goodness for that.
As a senior umpire. Right, okay, the next one then. We might be getting slightly stranger now, just to let you know, okay? Right, the village ground, we're back to village cricket. I love village cricket, okay? The village ground is next to a wedding venue. The batter launches a huge 6 towards long on. Unfortunately, it lands squarely in the middle of the wedding cake. Just as it's being wheeled outside for photographs, the ball disappears into the icing. Nobody can find it. What happens next?
Right, first of all, is the wedding cake inside the boundary or outside
The wedding
boundary?
cake is outside the boundary.
Outside the boundary. So
Yes.
the ball has cleared the boundary without any contact with the ground, and therefore 6 runs to the batter.
Okay.
If the ball cannot be recovered because that cake is so big or whatever, then the umpires, one of our tasks before the match starts is we go to the captain, the home team are required to provide suitable number of spare balls.
Okay.
And the umpires, inspect them before play starts. So, in the event that the ball is lost, for whatever reason, we will go and get a replacement ball, and it's up to us to decide, looking at the condition of the ball, which ball to choose. And what we try and do is select a replacement ball as close as possible to the condition of the ball that's just been lost.
And the answer, if the ball had already crossed the boundary, is 6. There you go. It's very good. You're doing very well here. Okay, very well. Now, I've got a problem in that I've double-sided printed this. Okay, I've got lots of bits of paper here, and I've got the scenario, but it then says the answer is on a different page, and I can't find the answer to the page. So I'm sure that's what you can probably hear.
So I can say what I like.
You can say what you like, yeah, because I don't know what the answer is. So let's find out the scenario. So the bowler is halfway through their run-up when a swarm of bees suddenly sweeps across the pitch. Every player, including both batters, dives flat onto the ground to avoid being stung. The bowler still has the ball in their hand. What's your decision?
Right. The ball becomes live as soon as the bowler starts their run-up. If for any reason players, the strikers, for example, pull away, someone walking behind the bowler's arm, or an annoying wasp, or a swarm of bees, or whatever, the umpire will immediately call and signal dead ball.
Okay.
And take recovery of the ball, and play stops until the annoying wasp, the spectator walking behind the bowler's arm, or the swarm of annoying bees dissipates, and play can resume. Okay.
And I have now found the answer, and it says dead ball. Player safety comes first.
Yeah, absolutely. And dead ball is the umpire's friend, because any situation on a Saturday, it's happened a number of times to me, that you always work with a colleague, work as a team. If you're not sure of something, you call dead ball, recover the ball, you go and talk to your colleague.
Okay, now this one has actually happened, okay? So, a batter is running between the wickets when a fielder pretends to throw the ball to the wicketkeeper. The batter hesitates just long enough to miss out on an easy second run. No throw was ever made. The umpire is asked to intervene. What's the decision?
Okay. Simulated fielding is an offence. It is not permitted. You're not allowed to distract or con the batters, the runners, by doing simulated fielding. So the very fact, and this has happened to me in a match as well, where a fielder has dived over the ball, got up and made a simulated throw to wicketkeeper or whatever, and that has stopped the batters running. Dead ball, and it's 5 penalty runs to the batting side, because simulated fielding is not permitted.
Let's see what the answer is. The umpire can award 5 penalty runs to the batting side if they believe the fielding side deliberately attempted to deceive the batters unfairly.
Yes.
Right, we've got 2 minutes left, okay?
So, was I right?
You were right, yeah. Do you know what? You've been right every single time. Which,
well, yeah.
I'm not surprised at that, if I'm honest with you. Right then, here we go. King Charles is making a surprise visit to your village cricket club, as he would. The batter launches a huge 6 towards the royal box. His Majesty instinctively reaches up, catches the ball one-handed, smiles at the crowd, and hands it back to the nearest fielder. The fielding side immediately appeal. Surely if the king catches it, that's out.
Right, again, where was the king? Was he inside the boundary or outside the boundary?
The king was outside of the boundary again.
Outside of the boundary. Right, so the ball has cleared the boundary without contact with the ground, so it's 6 runs to the batting side. And then 3 cheers for the king for taking a splendid one-handed catch.
So what would be the scenario then if he was inside the boundary?
Okay, if the ball is prevented from crossing the boundary, but in the umpire's belief the ball would, under its natural momentum, cross the boundary, they can award the appropriate boundary.
Okay. So let's go for the scenario then, developing this more, that the king is having a little walk around the pitch and he sees the ball coming over and he walks 10 yards into the boundary. It's not going to clear the boundary, might not even make the boundary, but he catches it and then hands it to a fielding person, and therefore the ball's never touched the ground. Surely because the king's caught it, they must be out.
No. Well, first of all, I would hope that the umpires would have their wits about them and see that the king has brought himself into danger by crossing the boundary and walking around, and they would stop proceedings and ask the king to leave the field of play.
You'd like to think, wouldn't you?
But no, in that situation, no, he can't. The king can't catch it and give it to a fielder and then claim a catch. Again, the umpires will decide, would the ball have crossed the boundary, be it but for the King's intervention, and then award accordingly.
Okay, all right. I've just created a bit more time for us because I'm enjoying this too much. Right, these, I'm going to say, and I'm going to try and say this in the nicest possible way, these next scenarios are less likely to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are less likely to happen. Let's go with that. A Tyrannosaurus Rex escapes from a nearby film set and runs across the outfield, chasing the third man. The batter has just clipped the ball into exactly the same area. The fielding captain wants to continue because the dinosaur hasn't actually touched the ball. What does the umpire do?
Hope he can run faster than all of the fielders. No, well, yeah. Stop play. You wouldn't carry on in those. If something happens which is out with the players,
I love the way you're taking this seriously.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just. I mean, but no, you could like it. A dog comes on.
Yeah,
a dog. That's more likely. A dog comes onto the field of play and starts chasing a fielder.
Yeah.
As soon as the umpire notices this, you call dead ball, and because you're to continue would disadvantage the fielding side. If one of their fielders is in fear of being mauled by a rabid dog or Tyrannosaurus Rex,
I'm guessing safety comes first.
Absolutely.
Here.
So we go back to Law 43. There are only 42 laws of cricket, but Law 43 is generally regarded to be common sense.
Okay. All right, then. We've got time for one more. We're back to dinosaurs, just to let you know. Okay, so the scenario is one of the fielders is wearing one of those giant inflatable dinosaur costumes for a charity fundraiser. The batter skies the ball and it bounces harmlessly off the dinosaur's enormous inflatable head before dropping into the fielder's hands. Out or not out?
Oh, crikey. Well,
it's a charity match, mate.
It's a charity match. One would assume that they're not taking it that seriously. I would, as the umpire, I would discuss with the captains, right, you're wearing funny costumes.
Right.
We are going to consider those as part of the player's uniform kit. And under the laws of cricket, if something bounces off a fielder, unless it's their head, of course,
yep,
or any part of their, and goes to the hand of,
then it's out.
And it's out. Yeah.
I'm going to give you the answer that's written down here. If it's clothing being worn normally, it's generally treated as part of the fielder.
Correct.
If the costume is unusual enough to raise fairness issues, the umpire may intervene under unfair play or local conditions. But there you go.
But then if you discuss with the captains, are you going to consider their costumes as part of their uniform?
Then you're done. Richard, you've done brilliantly. Well done. You got them all right. Time's up. If you've missed any of this, then you can catch up on the podcast. It'll be released later on today. Just type in A Story to Tell or Radio Blast to any podcast provider. I'm back next week between 10 and 12. Richard, we're back next year for our usual cricket debate and leadership debate. We'll see what angle we do next year. Lorraine's up next. Have a great week.